The room hums with a quiet anticipation, the kind that signals something is about to happen. Rows of journalists sit shoulder to shoulder, their faces lit by the glow of laptop screens. The air is thick with the mix of cologne, coffee, and the faint scent of warm plastic from cameras that have been running for hours. At the center of the room, a long black draped table stretches across the stage. Name cards sit in front of each chair, producers, lead actors, the director, and at the center, Mel Gibson. He's been here before, hundreds of times. Thousands, probably. The microphones, the flashing cameras, the predictable questions, none of these faze him. But today, something feels different. Not in an obvious way, but more like a low rumble in the distance, a shift in the air that only a few in the room seem to notice. Mel adjusts the sleeve of his jacket, fingers tapping lightly against the table. Not nervous, he doesn't get nervous, but like an unconscious rhythm, a habit formed over decades. The moderator, a thin man in a crisp suit, steps forward, clears his throat into the mic, and speaks in his smooth, practiced voice. Thank you all for being here. We're excited to discuss the upcoming release of Resurrection, directed by Mel Gibson. We'll begin with some questions from the press. Immediately, hands shoot up. The moderator points to a woman in the front row, and she asks about the film's inspiration. Mel leans forward slightly. It's a story I've wanted to tell for a long time. It's about sacrifice, redemption, things that matter. The next question comes from a man near the aisle. Mel, you've directed historical films before, but this one seems more personal. Would you say this film reflects your own beliefs? A small smile tugs at the corner of Mel's mouth. Of course I don't make films I don't believe in. That'd be a waste of time, wouldn't it? The crowd chuckles. The mood is light for now, but that feeling still lingers. Something's about to happen. The questions continue, some about the cast, others about the production process. Mel answers each one with the ease of a man who's done this 1,000 times before. But he knows what's coming. He can feel it. In the second row, a man leans back in his chair, arms crossed, lips slightly curved into something that's not quite a smirk. He hasn't spoken yet, hasn't raised his hand, but Mel notices him. The moderator calls on him. The man stands slowly, adjusting the microphone clipped to his shirt. His movements are deliberate, like someone setting up a shot. He clears his throat and lets the pause stretch a second too long. Then, finally, he speaks. But his words hit differently. Mr. Gibson, you've been vocal about your faith for years, some would say stubbornly so. He pauses again, letting the words land. In today's world, isn't Christianity becoming outdated? Isn't it, in many ways, divisive with everything happening globally? People moving past old traditions, inclusivity, progress. Don't you think it's time to let go of something that's caused so much conflict throughout history? The room falls silent, a tense, expectant silence. Everyone waits. Mel doesn't react immediately. He doesn't scoff. He doesn't roll his eyes. He just watches, tilting his head slightly, studying the man in front of him, the way a seasoned fighter sizes up an opponent before throwing the first punch. The room holds its breath. They know Mel. They know his temper, his history. The media has written about it for years. They've seen him react before, fire for fire, sharp-tongued, raw, unfiltered. But this time he doesn't take the bait. Instead, he does something far more unsettling. He smiles. Not the polite, media-trained smile, but something slow, calculated. The kind of smile that makes people lean in because they know something's coming. Mel picks up his water bottle, takes a deliberate sip, and sets it down again. His voice is steady, calm. You know, I've been in this business a long time, long enough to recognize when a question isn't really a question at all. He leans forward slightly, resting his forearms on the table. You didn't ask me that because you're curious. You asked me that because you wanted a reaction, maybe even a headline. The smirk on the reporter's face falters just a little. Mel continues, his tone measured. Let's talk about it, since you brought it up. You say Christianity is outdated, compared to what? The words land hard. The room is silent. The reporter doesn't answer. Mel shifts in his chair, his gaze unwavering. Greed, corruption. The idea that nothing matters unless it serves our immediate gratification. That's what modern thinking has turned into. An obsession with self, with tearing things down just because they've been around too long. We like to call it progress, but half the time it's just destruction with better branding. A murmur ripples through the room. Some journalists exchange glances. Others scribble furiously. The cameras keep rolling. Mel continues. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw someone ridiculed for being Buddhist, Muslim, or Jewish? People don't do it because they know it's offensive. But Christianity? It's open season, and no one bats an eye. The reporter opens his mouth, maybe to interject, maybe to defend himself, but Mel isn't done. You say Christianity is divisive. I say people are divisive. Always have been. Always will be. The world doesn't turn on faith, it turns on people's choices. And people have been using everything, race, politics, religion, to divide each other for centuries. Christianity isn't the problem, people are. And blaming faith for human failure is just a lazy way to avoid looking in the mirror. The weight of his words presses against the room. The tension is no longer just between Mel and the reporter. It's in the air itself. The cameras keep rolling, catching every flicker of emotion, every shift in body language. Mel exhales, leans back. So, if my faith offends you, that's not really my problem, is it? The reporter shifts uncomfortably. This isn't the reaction he expected. He wanted rage, defensiveness, maybe even an argument he could spin into a controversy. Instead, he got something worse. The truth, delivered with absolute clarity. Outside the press room, the real firestorm is just beginning. Someone uploads a 2-minute clip of the exchange to Twitter. No edits, no context. Just Mel's voice cutting through the tension. Within minutes, it explodes. By the time the press conference ends, the internet is on fire. Headlines roll in. Mel Gibson's bold defense of Christianity goes viral. Mel Gibson slams reporter in fiery exchange. Hollywood reacts. Reactions pour in from all sides. Supporters call him a fearless truth-teller, while others label his response dangerous and outdated. Some late-night talk shows play the clips for laughs, twisting Mel's words into easy punchlines. Meanwhile, Mel's team scrambles to distance themselves from the fallout. The film studio behind Resurrection releases a careful statement, emphasizing their commitment to inclusivity and diversity, but making sure to note that Mel's views are his own. As the media frenzy grows, the real support for Mel begins to take shape. A church in Texas plays the clip during Sunday service. Emails flood in from people thanking him for standing up. In small towns across America, conversations begin, not about controversy, but about conviction. But not everyone is pleased. Major brands reevaluate their relationship with him. A scheduled appearance on a popular morning show is quietly canceled. Mel's phone won't stop buzzing. Calls, messages, emails, some supportive, some not. His agent leaves strained voicemails, urging him to clarify his statement, soften his stance, maybe issue an apology. Mel doesn't call back. Instead, he stands on his patio, staring at the horizon as the sun sets. He knows this isn't the first time the media has targeted him. He's made mistakes in the past, and they've made sure no one forgets. But this time, it's different. This is about conviction, and Hollywood doesn't like people with conviction. His assistant knocks on the door, holding an envelope. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note reads, "Thank you for not backing down." Mel exhales, rubbing his thumb over the words. This is why he spoke, because some people needed to hear it. The media calls it controversial. But since when is faith controversial? Since when is believing in something a crime? Another message pops up from his agent, but Mel ignores it. He knows what it says: clarify, apologize, smooth things over. But he's not interested. Do you want me to schedule a statement? His assistant asks. Mel shakes his head. Number. Here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need constant defense. It stands on its own. No amount of late-night jokes, think pieces, or Twitter outrage will change what's already been said. And Mel knows that the real battle hasn't even begun yet. Because truth? Truth doesn't need permission to be spoken. And it doesn't need apologies.